liberty, and justice for all.
Do you have any questions?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we start the questions that were asked about the adopted item, Robert Miller has one of those questions. Can you come forward tonight?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, trustees, and everyone else. My name is Robert Miller. I live 122 Princeton Street in the village of Hempstead. And I was questioning about item number 9, about hiring, the way you're hiring some of your employees.
Yes.
I applied for a spot in water and sewer. They told me I was underqualified. I applied for a spot in the street department. They told me I was overqualified. So I was just wondering, what is the standard operational procedures, the way you guys go about hiring people?
Personnel issue, and it's not possible to talk about it. I believe you were advised that we've not.
No, I was told that they was going to give it to a part-timer that's not even part of the...
Well, let's not go any further, because this is a personal issue. If you come on in, we'll be glad to address it tomorrow.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Mr.
I'm
Mayor.
aware of the situation. I thought we covered ourselves with that. But all right, we'll make sure.
But if we vote on it tonight, we'll see just a quick
Well, we're not going to discuss in public.
Mayor, yeah, if you're speaking to the supervisor first.
But
You should be speaking to the supervisor.
I'm sure you have.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, let's go on.
Presentation of activities report for public bodies. Vanessa Henry, chairperson.
First, let me start off.
On the bottom.
The bottom.
Thank you. First of all, let me start off by saying Happy New Year to everyone. The Parks and Recreation Commission last meeting was held Tuesday, December 18th at Kennedy Park from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. In attendance were Commissioners Jeff Spencer, Barbara Gordon, Ricky Cook, Mandy Harrison, Walter Squatts, and Superintendent Joy Sanders. Commissioner Renee Cordell was excused. The meeting was called to order at 6:30 p.m. by the chairperson. There was no minutes from our last meeting in November because we didn't have a meeting. The commissioners reviewed 6 correspondents from the community requesting the use of the facilities at Hempstead Parks. 1 request was approved, 3 requests were placed on hold pending further information, and 3 requests were denied. The commissioners reviewed old business, which was the splash park at Lincoln Park. We were told that the trustees were to vote on additional funds for the splash park. Is that true?
I can't hear you.
So is that a maybe, we're thinking about it, we didn't review it yet?
We're looking for sources.
Okay, thank you. And we also talked about the signage for the skate plaza at Kennedy Park. And also we had another conversation about the memorial sign to be constructed at Lincoln Park. And we also received an update regarding the soccer and football field at Kennedy Park. The meeting was adjourned at 7:30 p.m. and the next meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission will be held Tuesday, January 29, 6:30 at Kennedy Memorial Park. Is that my 3 minutes?
Go ahead.
I have a question. So we're gonna put a fence around the skateboard thing, right?
I was told no.
We are. It's going to be
You
on
are?
next year's-
Okay, because
next year's
we,
budget.
okay,
And the dedication of that park, at the request of Mr. Wallow,
Right.
will be done on the birthday of his son Garrett, whose memorial that is represented.
Right.
That'll be sometime later.
in April, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. So, what were the 3 groups that were denied access to?
Well, I only have 3 minutes, so that's why I didn't.
No, I'm not saying, hold on, I'll do that.
Well, one thing was denied. We received a request from someone to have a hair cutting salon courtside of games at the park. That was denied by us. That was also denied by the village attorney because Superintendent Sanders had that reviewed by the village attorney. And they were also charged fees to do hair cutting courtside.
Cutting courtside.
And there was a denial for Bishop Carlson Chambers. He requested the use of Kennedy Memorial Park for church services. We were also informed by Superintendent Drew Sanders that this was denied by the village attorney. And Lindsey Gray requested the use of Kennedy Park for AAU Forever Youth Practice 3 days a week. And they didn't give us a schedule. We didn't know if most of the kids came from Hempstead. So that was denied, actually pending if they, give us further information regarding that matter. That's it?
And then just on the splash park,
Yes.
how are you to the point where, or you can explain how you to the point where you know you need more money? Because what we've approved so far has been the requisition for an architect to look at the pool and the splash park. So how we already know that you need more money? We got to have everybody look at it.
I don't know that. I was told that by Superintendent Sanders that you guys were going to review it. I don't have the particulars of it, but I can get the particulars of it and inform you at the next meeting.
I think most of that was based on a visit that the trustee, myself, Mark Johnson and myself went out to Tanner Park and went over some numbers and designs.
Are you going to another park?
Yes, they have such a facility, and we were trying to see if we can learn from that experience, but we don't have the exact numbers.
Oh, okay.
Basically, some fees that we thought we had to use. And there's been some talk locally about what it would cost us to fill it in and do some of the items preliminarily, but the bottom line numbers are still subject to change.
All right, thank you.
Have we received, have we received the study back yet from the engineer?
No,
So we don't have a basis, right?
no, we're still preliminary.
And then finally, my question was, I suggest that we seriously consider fencing that park and not waiting for next year before we fence that park and the skate parking, because you look over there, when we walk by Kennedy Park right now, there's kids out there in the dark on the skateboards. We shouldn't be waiting for.
The only thing about that, you could fence it in, but you would probably actually need somebody in the park overnight to keep them out of it.
Well, that's.
I mean, if that's the purpose of the fence, because they will still climb over the fence and come in the park to use the skate park.
So we just gotta put some effort to keeping them out. We're not gonna gate it. We gotta show an effort to keep them out. Because it's dark over there too at that point in time.
No, it
Yeah, I
is.
agree. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you.
One of the officers, report was submitted. We're now going to ask the lawyers to please come forward. Our zoning officer for personal violence work.
Happy New Year to everyone. Personal wireless. PWSF board issued T-Mobile a new special use permit on an existing multiple dwelling. It's a senior house rooftop, a new base station known as 20 Totten Street. All equipment will be on the rooftop. A personal wireless service facility board hearing was held on November 29th and was posted in various locations. There are 16 antennas, 4 sectors, 4 cabinets, and 1 generator, and other equipment that's involved. That's, wires, etc. A special use permit was issued to AT&T to modify their existing base station at 600 Fulton Avenue. And Sprint, I issued a special use permit because that's, I'm in the process of reviewing that one. That's 6 Sealy Avenue. It's an existing base station. And these are all private properties. They submitted their fees. It's $11,000 in total. And the building department will issue the building permits as required per the Village of Hempstead codes and New York State building codes.
Now, at this time, we're gonna have Reginald Lewis come to next for the council.
Excuse me,
Sorry.
Ms. McQueen.
Dolores?
Hello, Ms. McQueen. It's okay, you can go back to this in a minute. What did we rent that roof for at 20 Totten?
We do not rent it.
No?
20 Totten rents it.
That's what I mean, what did they get for it? You know?
It's not a village property, the way I understand it and the way I review it.
Okay.
It's more like a private entity of HUD, the group, the Village of Hempstead.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Lucas?
Yes, good evening, happy New Year to everyone. Hope you have a better year this year. We didn't have any meeting last year because of the holiday, but we plan on having a bus trip to Albany in February. And I'll be coming around trying to get in some funds to help pay for the bus. That's why it's 2 months early, but you know, the bus costs $1,400. Bless you.
Very, very solid.
Chairperson for the minutes of the planning board?
Good evening and Happy New Year.
Good
Mayor and
evening.
trustees. The planning board met on December 17th at 6:30 p.m. Present, Rashid Walker, Leroy Brown, Lynn Ledines, Marcia Turner, and Kenita Pettis. Also present, Sharice Vanderbilt of Council and Michelle Banks of the planning board. The acceptance of the minutes was moved by Kenita Pettis that the reading of the minutes of the regular meeting of November 19th, 2018 be dispensed with and be accepted as reviewed. Second by Leroy Brown, all were in favor. The following cases were approved. Case number 726, 774 Main Street for site plan approval of Tiago's Barbershop. Case number 747, 760 Fulton Avenue for site plan approval to construct an Arby's. Case number 748, 140 Front Street for site plan approval for Perilous Restaurant. There being no further business, a motion was made by Rashid Walker to adjourn, second by Marcia Turner, all were in favor. The next meeting will be held on Monday, January 28th at 6:30 p.m. Respectfully submitted.
Executive Director.
I'm sorry, we didn't hear you.
Excuse me?
I didn't hear the last comment.
Shereen Brooks,
Happy
now
New Year.
Executive Director of the Executive Director.
Happy New Year to all.
Happy New Year.
And I want to address your question about
Yes.
the fee. We're going to be having $5,000 a month. That's how much we're getting.
5,000 a month?
Yes. You're welcome.
Were there any building upgrades?
Excuse me?
Did they give you any building upgrades
No,
as part of that?
we're fine. The roof is, the roof is fine. We didn't have to upgrade for the roof. We got inspected by the engineers. Everything was good to go.
What about the electric? So
The
all of a
electrical
sudden, when all
part-
that antenna and stuff off of there was no electrical upgrades done to the
And
roof?
unfortunately, this contract went into, let's say this, we have legal counsel now. And the legal counsel, when they saw that, said that, you know, that could have been a better contract. When that contract was done, I wasn't the executive director at the time. And it was already done. So it was fine. But, yes,
When does it expire?
it's 3 years.
From
It started, the contract was signed in July.
2017?
Yeah, 2008, this year. Hasn't even, the construction hasn't even started yet. They're gonna, probably will be live in March.
Do you know if they've issued the plans? Have the plans been before the building department as of yet?
Yeah,
Have they been approved? Do you know if it's approved?
that was from the zoning, everything was approved, we're just ready to start. yes.
Don't include building department.
Yes, from the building department.
No, I'm saying it's no from
On one here, yes. Okay, so with my report, we had a couple of holiday parties. We had a senior holiday party called Let's Eat Together, sponsored by the Iron Gate Cares Foundation. The foundation chairman is a former Hempstead resident himself. The Iron Gate Foundation provided dinner and raffled 2 flat screen TVs, one TV per tenant, one tenant per building. The village of Hempstead provided transportation, so thank you for that. So the 10 tenants from 20 Cotton could also come over because it was held at 260. So we want to thank you also. The mayor came out and supported us on that evening and supported the transportation, so thank you for that. Also, we had another party that were just for the children and the grandchildren from our community. The food and toys were donated by SOS Emergency Home Service, and we'd like to thank Trustee Johnson for coming and supporting us on that and as a giver as well. Those are the 2 things that happened pretty much in December. We have this grant called the Resident Opportunity and Self-Sufficiency Program. It's Roth. It's a 3-year grant, federally funded through HUD, and it was awarded to the Community Development Corporation of Long Island. And that was to assist us, the public housing residents, to achieve greater housing and economic stability and self-sufficiency. The grant was awarded in July of 2018. The goal is to match 50 residents with disabilities who are in public housing. Presently, there are 16 Roth participants and 5 peer ambassadors. The ambassadors are tenants themselves, and they go and help out with the outreach. Even though there are 16 Roth participants, the activities are phenomenal, and we have about 29 residents who just come down just for the activities. Sometimes it's a slow sell to have someone join to be a full participant, but they get great benefits. The quarterly report, I asked for a quarterly report just to see what the fantastic things that they're doing for the community. And Long Island Cares, Just Say Yes to Fruits and Vegetables have come. They have a Tai Chi Stop and Bleed program facilitated by a new MC with a trauma nurse, another health professional. They teach residents how to stop victims from bleeding and a form of Tai Chi exercise that will help prevent falls and is good for arthritis. Also, SDCLI, the S3 Pathways Economic Success, S3, they do workshops there to reduce debt, understand credit, scams, understanding tenants' rights. Also, they reached out to the Hempstead community policing with Sergeant Ivan Dixon has come. He's held plenty of nice and informational workshops for them just to keep our community safer. He's coming back in January, and I'm trying to have a meeting with him just one-on-one here because I've already had a meeting with him to move forward, just to make him feel more safer. And with this particular Roth grant, the upcoming partnering and trying to do is with United Health to address blood pressure screenings, blood sugar monitoring, and also develop a light lunch with the nurse on call. They also want to introduce musical training, which will, such as guitar, drum, and piano, that can reduce stress. And that's my report. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Questions?
Good questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Charlene Thompson.
Good evening and Happy New Year to you all.
Good evening.
So I'll start off by saying with the federal opportunity zones, we're in the process of developing a strategy for local opportunity zones. The town of Hempstead has reached out to us on multiple occasions to express an interest in working with us to maximize the economic impact of the federal opportunity zones. I would also like to note that the town itself has a separate page on the town's website marketing the village's federal opportunity zones. And what I've done is told them whatever efforts we do must be coordinated with our senior councilwoman, Dorothy Gooseby, so I've asked that she be included in the conversation as we move forward. Empire State Poverty Reduction Initiative, ESPRI. The Community Empowerment Resource Center officially opened on Wednesday, December 12th. I'm happy to say we've had an influx of residents, and not only from the village of Hempstead, but from surrounding areas to come to receive assistance as well as emergency funding. And I'm very proud to say that we're off to a great start. Safe routes to school. Construction for the ABGS Middle School and Jackson, Maine Elementary School are in the final phases of design approval. Construction on these sites are slated to begin and be completed in the summer of 2019. The educational component for David A. Patterson School is targeted to begin for the PTSA as well as for the students in February of 2019. We hope to culminate that program with a visit for the elementary students to visit Safety Town. Brownfield Opportunities Area. There are flyers in the back in English and in Spanish talking about a public meeting that's scheduled to be held at the library on January 23rd, beginning at 5:30 p.m. to get the village residents' input on what they'd like to see in our downtown revitalization area. The Brownfield Opportunity Area coordinates with our downtown overlay zone. So we really want the public to come out and give their feedback on what you'd like to see there, because it will be incorporated into our report and our request for the designation to the state. Main Street Pedestrian Sidewalk Enhancement Program. You may have noticed that the area from James A. Garner Way to Front Street has had sidewalk improvements. They've shut down the project for the winter. You'll see that black asphalt. That's not permanent. That's only to winterize the project. It will be dug up when the weather breaks. They will plant trees and grass, and there'll be a water feature as well as benches and new lighting, etc. that will be concluding that project, which will be completed by the June of 2019. Local Initiative Support Coalition. So we received a grant. I thought I got 5 minutes.
It's 3 now.
Well, that wasn't in the memo.
What did they change there?
Local Initiative Support Coalition. So we've received a grant through the state to do housing quality improvement, including foreclosure intervention programs and homeowner education programs. We have asked for a reallocation of the funding to hire a designated consultant to focus on our zombie home management, to have more updated inventory and rapid response to resolving, for example, preventing squatters, etc. We'll also be doing mailings to homeowners who are currently in a foreclosure process or in danger of having issues arise from their home. The clerk gets a notification anytime someone's in danger of having a foreclosure proceeding initiated, and we will do some rapid intervention to help them bring the resources that whatever we have. Our Zombie Home Initiative. So we are working with the County of Nassau County's Land Bank to acquire and rehabilitate zombie homes. We'll also be working with them jointly to acquire vacant properties in addition to the ones that the CDAs own, and we're looking to start building out in the very early spring on the vacant lots that we have, and we're discussing kind of models to maximize the difference availability and housing choice for our local residents, maybe coming up with something a little bit different from the single-family home, maybe a duplex, so that we can really make the housing choice affordable. So for a young professional or someone who's coming out of college and wants to stay in the area, we're looking to bring more housing choices to the region. Hempstead and another tool for that is the Hempstead Community Land Trust. Another flyer you see in the back, very important for you all to note. If you don't have a copy of this, please pick up a copy. We'll have a public information session on the Hempstead Community Land Trust on Thursday, January 31st, from 5:30 to 8 p.m. at Kennedy Park. This is a membership drive and a general information session. Membership dues is $10 for the year. We encourage you to come out and become a member, because in the early March we'll be having an annual organizational meeting where we'll be electing officers from the residents. So please come to that January 1st meeting to get your information and to sign up for a member so you can be able to vote at the March meeting. Let's see. Memorial Sloan Kettering, the CDA is working with them to identify local contracting opportunities. We've identified 3 areas: food services, dry cleaning services, and landscaping services. We're working with the Hempstead Chamber as well as the Uniondale Chamber to do a compilation of local businesses that are licensed within the Village of Hempstead to provide a list of referrals to Memorial Sloan Kettering for contracting opportunities. Sewer study. We met with Department of Public Works and Cameron Engineering, who's updating our sewer study. And one of the action items that came up out of that meeting is the proposal they said to replace all of the sewer lines to alleviate the overflow and the backflow that's now pressing our system. One of the things that DPW recognizes those connector joints. The initial connectors parts from the old system to the new will be stressed. And so we've asked them to go back and look to see how much it would cost to replace those additional joints where the old system would then connect with the new system. So we're waiting for that update, the updated cost associated therewith. Then we'll have to go back to the state to ask them to release the funds based upon that new model. And finally, and very excitedly, the Delft Bus Project is scheduled to come online this month. So we're working with Renaissance and Delft and RDUA and Renaissance to do a local hiring center, to organize local contractors, to be actively engaged in the contracting opportunities, and also to make sure that we present as many opportunities for hiring local residents and engaging local contractors as possible. If you have any questions regarding that, we've had one public information contract session already in December. More information will follow. I'm working very closely with Reginald Benjamin and ABBA to make sure that they're engaged in every phase of that process to make sure that job opportunities come to local residents. That's all I have for you this evening. Questions? Thank you.
Electrical board?
Good evening, Mayor, trustees, and residents. Wish everybody a happy and healthy new year. I have a report of the electrical licensing board. We met on December 27th, called to order at 4:15 p.m. Present was Mr. Constantine, electrical inspector, myself, Mr. Castillo, Mr. Conjemi, and Mr. Dimitru. The minutes of the regular meeting of November 2018 were approved as read by the body, but the following applicant was approved to take part 1 of the license exam. Mr. Brian Flanagan of Huntington, New York. He's approved to take part 1. It will be scheduled through the inspector. The following applicant was given his oral exit exam and was recommended to the board for electrical license. Arthur Martin of Lindenhurst, New York. A recommendation was made by Mr. Conjemi, seconded by Mr. Constantine, and it was approved by all the others, so we recommend the village clerk to issue a master electrician's license to this individual. Discussion took place regarding, on a sad note, a long time member of the licensing board passed away, Mr. Alex Kozlowski. He was the former owner of R&G Electric, which used to be on Front Street and anybody give me some help? Front Street in South Franklin. His shop was located years ago, and then he moved out of the village toward the end of his career. So he had passed away. He's going to be missed by us. We had a discussion on filling this vacant seat of the electrical license board due to his passing. The board recommends to the village trustees Mr. Raymond Graham of Uniondale, New York. He's a contractor. He has his business on Uniondale Avenue. He's a local guy. So we spoke about that a little bit, and I think he was asked and he is interested if the board feels to appoint him.
Can you make sure a resume is sent to the members of the board?
Yeah, we'll get that in. I know we only met the other day, so we had to get this all together. Discussion drafting a letter to be sent to the electrical license holders regarding completion of 8 hours of continuing education units for next renewal cycle, which will start at the end of this year. All right, with no further business to the board, the meeting was adjourned at 6 p.m. Respectfully submitted on Gary. Just a side note, myself and Ms. Thompson met with Sal Ferrara from the Electrical Training Institute out in Copiague, New York. I kind of think that it's a business for this guy, so it isn't what you're not going to get a licensed electrician out of it by taking 1 class or 2 classes. It's a series of classes, and then you have 5 years of an apprenticeship you have to do. So it's a long process. So I thought Ms. Thompson would have something would bring that up a little bit, but she didn't. So I just want to give a little report. My job, and this was by direction of what we decided at the licensing board, was just to bring this meeting together. We really have no input or no, we're not capable of training somebody. It's not what we do. You have to be a certified teacher for that. So I just wanted to give you some, if you want any more information, we can get you some more information. But at this point, I think it's not really going to move forward. Am I correct with that?
Yes, if you want, I can just add a little bit.
Sure, I'd appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay, I'll just turn my report in. Is there any questions? No? Okay, happy New Year. Thank you.
So we do have a few licensed and master plumbers and electricians here in the village, and what we're doing is working with them to see if any of those individuals who are working under them are to the point where they have 5 years or close to 7 years. And what we're going to do is, if they are ready to take that step for that test, we can provide them the course, we can provide them funding to help with that course towards taking the master developers test, the master electricians or master's plumbers test. So we want to identify basically the critical mass of candidates within the village. We do have some master electricians and master plumbers in the village, and basically it depends on who's working under them who may be able to and willing to take that next step that we want to support them to be able to do so. But it also, a large part of it is also they have to be ready to run their own business. Once you become a master plumber or master electrician, it's not just taking the test, then you really have to be ready to step up and handle your own business. So a lot of these gentlemen are very comfortable where they are. They make a lot of money working as an apprentice under someone else. So those are the things that we're weighing, but we've been working very closely with them to see if we identify anyone. We're there to support them and giving them whatever technical assistance they need to pass the test.
Thank you.
Kelly McGee.
I heard that buzzer go off a couple of times there, Samantha, so give me a break, okay? Happy holidays there, Mr. Mayor, Trustee Pettis, Johnson, Renfro, and Trustee Daniels, and Happy New Year to all the lovely residents here in the village of Hempstead. That being said, a regular meeting of the Examining Board of Plumbers was called to order at 4:15 p.m. on December 27, 2018. Members present were Mr. Steinhardt, Mr. Castro, and myself. We reviewed the paperwork for Ryan Trumcali to become a tri-town plumber. Mr. Trumcali did not meet the requirements in the town of Hempstead due to a certificate of competency in Babylon, therefore he was denied by the board. We also reviewed the paperwork from John O'Sullivan, who met all the requirements. His certificate of competency was from North Hempstead, therefore he was approved by the board of plumbers. We had a brief discussion on state and local codes. There being no further business, the meeting was adjourned at 5:45 p.m. We good?
Resolved that upon the recommendation of Samantha Council, the village clerk, that the board of trustees hereby waives the reading of the minutes of the regular meeting of December 18th to be read aloud.
I move that the board waive the reading of the minutes and be approved as noted.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Clerk wishes to report that Mayor Ryan and Deputy Mayor Renfro have approved the miscellaneous licenses as reviewed. Curtis Restaurant Corp., 140 Front Street. Easy File Professional Services, 32 Main Street. National Wholesale Cell Phone, Inc., 50 Fulton Avenue. AA Liquor and Wine, Inc., 215 Fulton Avenue. My Sunshine Beauty Salon Corp., 15 Front Street. And Renewal Harbor Freight Tools, USA, Inc., 270 Peninsula Boulevard. Bond construction of improvements of the water plant at Laurel Avenue. Estimated maximum cost thereof is $6,263,000. Resolved that upon the recommendation of Raymond Kalani, village controller, that the board of trustees hereby approves the bond resolution of the village of Hempstead authorizing the construction of improvements to the water plant located at Laurel Avenue, stating the estimated maximum cost thereof is $6,263,000, appropriating said amount for such purposes and authorizing the issuance of bonds in the principal amount of $6,263,000 to finance that appropriation.
I'm going to pause here for a moment. Mr. Bob Holzmark has joined us. He is a consultant for the Village of Hempstead, an expert on the water issues, and we do have 4 different resolutions regarding water, and it might be appropriate at this time, if you don't mind, to come forward, and he'll give us a little bit of an idea, first on 4 and 5, which are together, and then on 6 and 7, and later, anybody who wishes to ask a question will do so, but at this time, perhaps some of those questions will be answered.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, trustees, happy New Year to everyone. The resolutions before you are for 2 different projects, one at Laurel Avenue, one at Clinton Street. And the reason that we're asking you to consider these at this time is that there are grants available for treatment of emerging contaminants, and in this case, it's 1,4-dioxane, which impacts both of the water plants. And the applications for those grants ask for a bond resolution as well as many other supporting documents. The bond resolution that you're being asked to consider tonight is not the actual drawing of the monies on the bond. It's a resolution showing the state of New York that you are prepared and in a position financially to act on this when and if you should be offered and accept a grant. The grant program allows funding of up to 60% of the cost of the construction, but not to exceed $3 million. So in this case, Laurel Avenue is a little bit over $6 million. The project and one of the next resolutions at Clinton Street is a little bit under $6 million. The difference being that Laurel Avenue will require a large generator, whereas Clinton Street already has the generator. Other than that, the scope of the projects are quite similar. So in each case, the grant would be very close to the $3 million, if not, in fact, the full $3 million. And the reason for the timing of this is that those grant applications are due 1 week from Friday. So it's not something that we can put off to another month.
So even though you're talking $6 million, the taxpayers will be obligated to $3 million of it, right? With the grant.
Well, the grant would be $3 million, and then the balance of that. So it would be very close to $3 million, the amount that would actually be bonded.
And this is a must that we need to do.
Yes. One of the other reasons that for the timing of this is that there was a recommendation right now, the 1,4-dioxane, it's called an emerging contaminant. There is no regulation for that. It's been looked at for the last 2 years. It was discovered under what they call the UCMR, the Unregulated Contaminant Monitoring Rule. It's an EPA rule. So the 1,4-dioxane was detected. There is not a legally enforceable limit right now. New York State has a generic policy for things that are not specifically regulated of having a maximum contaminant level of 5 parts per billion. With the 1,4-dioxane, just a couple of weeks ago, a recommendation by Drinking Water Quality Advisory Council was made to the New York State Health Department, the director of the health department, that they adopt an MCL, a maximum contaminant limit of 1 part per billion for the 1,4-dioxane. The water industry, we've really been anticipating that the health department would adopt an MCL really for the entirety of this last year. So we suspect strongly that the commissioner will adopt something rather soon. We have no inside knowledge as to exactly when, and the commissioner is free to adopt a number other than the recommended 1 part per billion.
I know water is very important, but it just seemed like in the last couple of years, we must have spent $10 million and it just steady, and somebody's gonna have to pick up the tab. I'm pretty sure the water rate's gonna go up, right?
I would think so, yes.
I would think definitely, my best guess is, I talked to some of the water experts, is that debt service will bring it up 4%, and then 9% will reflect the operating cost. It doesn't affect the tax rate, obviously, because this is the water rate that we're talking about, but it would be cash out of all of our pockets. But having clean, healthy water is a must for any community. Certainly here in the Village of Hempstead, we appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree with that, but it just seems like next month it'd be something else, you know. I just wanna see, you know, we do what we need to do and keep it at that level, not every month that we have to bond for a problem with the water. And it's not even covered, and we didn't even get to that point yet.
Right, well, no, I can understand your frustration, and it's very well placed. But if we're in a situation where we have to build the treatment system, it's much better to get the grant for half of it
No, I
than to have to do it on your own dime.
I understand.
So basically, if I've got this right, if we approve it tonight and it requires a weighted vote, then you're gonna put the package together,
Yes,
and by January the 11th, it's submitted to the environmental facilities of the state?
that's correct. So we don't know the time frame for them to evaluate those grants. They've been going much more quickly, but for them, a couple of months is quickly, so we would hope to hear sometime this spring. And then if you're offered the grant, that is the point where you have to actually decide whether you're going to accept the grant or not.
And there's 0 interest on the bond.
Well, there would be a grant from the state. This program is very specifically a grant. And then your own bond that the village issues, that would have whatever interest rate the market would allow at that time. But the money from the state is actually a grant, not a loan.
Questions?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. Number one is, could you explain, I'm looking at the people out here, when you say 1 part per billion, most of the people don't know what you mean by that. Could you explain that in layman's terms?
It's very difficult to come up with an intuitively obvious idea of what 1 part per billion is. I know a couple of the illustrations that have been used over the years. 1 part per billion is 1 second out of like 31 or 32 years, or it'd be 1 drop of water in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. So it's a very low number. So there are other, one of the things that's driving this, and in response to Trustee Pettis' question, we're seeing more and more regulation and activity on things like water quality, and it's driven very much by the laboratories. The abilities of the laboratories to detect things at tiny levels is rapidly increasing. 30 years ago, when a lot of the industry first started, getting a number of, a part per million, or 1,000 times higher, or half a part per million was considered really high tech at the time. And the laboratory equipment continues to get better and better and better. And now there are standards for other compounds that are in the parts per trillion. One of the standards that was actually, one of the levels, I should say, the concentrations actually discussed for the 1,4-dioxane wasn't 1 part per billion, it was 0.035 parts per billion, which is 35 parts per trillion, which that it pushes the laboratory capabilities to even detect that. We're very rapidly getting to the point where you can't get to 0 on anything anymore.
So much for layman's terms.
That's layman's terms.
Sorry.
Glad the buzzer's not working here.
I just have just one quick question. Is there any benefit in combining the fact that we've got the air stripper plant going in, the air stripper going in at Laurel Avenue, combining these projects together, doing them at the same time, will we get any kind of cost reductions by doing them both at the same time versus separate?
Not immediately, but there is some benefit. Knowing that this has been talked about for the last couple of years, the air stripping project, which is going up bid in a couple of weeks, is designed with capped tees and the arrangement of the buildings was all set, anticipating the possible need to do this. So there was a little bit of extra work done in the air stripping project which will save a lot of work on the construction of the AOP, the advanced oxidation process.
But nothing like, setting up staging areas, the general conditions, where you can really dump on a bunch of costs there.
Not directly. The plant sites are small enough that actually trying to do them both at one time might actually cost you more because there's only so many people that can work in a small area.
Sounds like the water bill's gonna go up 10%, everybody.
Just not a question, just a comment. Particularly when we talk about the price of the water is going up. I was told by someone if we don't do these projects, we would have to post a sign that says drink water at your own risk in Hempstead.
How did they get to that?
I can't answer that question, but if it was just here, perhaps I could, but I'm understanding that it's all over the country now.
That's correct.
Right, and the new regulations that's coming down. So, I don't think it's something that we could have prevented, because it started years and years ago.
Yes, it did.
Yeah. So now if you try to close the door when the horses are already gone, we gotta come up with something else.
Yes, we do.
Anybody? Okay, thank you, sir.
I'm done, thank you.
Trustee Johnson?
No.
Trustee Pettis?
No.
Trustee Daniels?
Let's back up, make sure we know what we're voting on.
We're voting on the bond.
Item
Well,
4?
I need a motion.
Are we in item 4?
Yes, so I'm gonna take a motion first.
So move.
Second?
I'll second.
Trustee Johnson?
No.
Trustee Pettis?
No.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Motion fails.
The motion fails. It had to have a way to vote.
Right.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna stop talking and Jackie wanna speak to the board of trustees. Item number 5, everyone.
The point is being made that item 5 now has no value because item 4 did not pass.
Right.
So we'll move on to item 6.
So item number 5 is being pulled.
Well,
Yes.
It's contingent
Contingent on 4.
by default fails.
By default.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
So, pull it.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna move on to item number 6. Bond construction of improvements to the water plant at Quincy Street, estimated maximum cost there of $5,840,000. Resolved that upon the recommendation of Lady Blaine, village controller, that the board of trustees hereby approve the bond resolution of the village of Hempstead, New York, authorizing the construction of improvements to the water plant located at Quincy Street, stating the estimated maximum cost thereof $5,840,000, appropriating said amount for such purpose and authorizing the issuance of bonds in the principal amount of $5,840,000 to finance said appropriation. I need a motion.
Move.
second.
Question. I don't know who to ask it.
It's
a
a
Housemarker and,
So, Housemarque, can you come forward, please, to the
Deputy
microphone?
Treasurer. So if we don't approve the bond, which we didn't, the chances of getting the grant go down significantly, or
Yes.
stay the same, or go up?
It probably precludes getting a grant. It would be considered an incomplete application.
So it would be an incomplete application, and we're basically telling ourselves that we will not get a grant to offset these costs that we eventually will have to endure. And instead of having half of it go off of, come from the state in the form of a grant, all of it would have to come from taxpayers.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Question, do we have enough time to get the public involved to listen to what we have to do and then submit it? I mean, can you?
January 11th.
I understand that. He can't answer that question. He can't answer that question.
Yeah, well, it's a week from Friday that it needs.
Right, that's a fair answer.
And just for Deputy Treasurer, so
this isn't necessarily borrowing the money. This is just giving us approval to borrow should we get the grant. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. This is not borrowing the money.
No.
This is not borrowing the money.
Based on the vote.
Right.
No, I'm just saying, what the answer to your question is, we're gonna get the grant if this would've went through. We're gonna
Had a better chance.
We have a better chance of getting the grant if we would have.
This vote, this resolution does not require that you actually issue the bond.
Correct.
Showing the opinion of the bond council that you are in a position to do so and proceed with the project. It is all this time.
Thank you.
Trustee Johnson? Trustee Pettis? Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro? Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Motion failed.
Item 7 is hereby lifted.
Item 7, everyone, has been pulled. As it relates to number 6. We're going to move on to item number 8 on the item sheet. Justin Cum, consultant. Resolved that upon the recommendation of Raymond Clay, village controller, that the board of trustees hereby authorizes to enter into a contract with Justin Cum and the village of Hempstead to provide advice and consultation to the village regarding information technology. The village will compensate the consultant at the rates and for the hours set forth on the attached appendix A.
What's the amount?
$150 an hour, limited to 20 hours a week.
What's the time frame?
It's until May the 31st of 2019, commencing on January 14th, and he retires on Friday, January 11th, so this is January 14th, 2019, through May 31st of 2019. And as Mayor Ryan has stated, it does not exceed 20 hours a week at $150 an hour. I need a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Trustee Johnson?
No.
Trustee Pettis?
No.
Trustee Daniels?
No.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Motion failed.
And now there's been a request by the deputy mayor to go into executive session to do as quickly as we can. Can I have a motion to that effect, please?
Second.
We might have to stay going to executive session because
At this time, we're going to go into executive session for personnel items pertaining to items on the agenda number 9. I need a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Trustee Daniels, second. It's now.
We need a vote.
Trustee Johnson? Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro? Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
The time is now 7:24.
Please bring it down.
Clerk, will you advise about the 11,
Yes, I will.
the individual alley? Yes.
Yes,
Can we have a motion to come out of executive session, please?
So moved. Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes, and now item 9 is being divided up into 9A, 9B, 9C, 9D, 9E, in the obvious fashion going down there.
Clerk offers the following resolution for adoption, authorizing the appointment of ad or salary changes for certain full-time and part-time employees of the Incorporated Village of Hempstead as reviewed as follows. Matthew Gonzalez, 99 James A. Garner Way, Hempstead, New York. Title change, Department, DPW, Water and Sewer Servicer. Title, Water and Sewer Servicer Trainee. Grade 1073. New salary, $56,407 a year, effective January 7, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Motion passed. Clerk offers the following resolution for adoption, authorizing the
I'm
appointment.
sorry, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Are we amending that?
We just did that. We just did that. Letter A through E.
No, B. B. Oh,
No.
we talked about it.
Yeah, we announced that, A, B, C, D, and E.
No.
No.
No, it's going as is.
Yeah.
Clerk calls the following resolution for adoption, authorizing the appointment of and/or salary changes for certain full-time and part-time employees of the Incorporated Village of Hempstead as reviewed as follows. Sharice Vanderhall, 99 James A. Garner Way, Hempstead, New York, title change. Department, legal, title, village attorney, grade exempt, salary, $125,000, effective upon approval.
Move. Second.
Question? So on, we can't ask a question on personnel?
No,
Yes, you can.
Oh, you got it. So on this appointment, this is an appointment. This is no longer, this becomes a full-fledged appointment that's not entitled to a vote outside of the vote that's here now. Is that correct?
let's have the attorney answer the motion. Okay.
Who's leaving? So when did they, announce that?
So,
What happened?
So back and forth.
What's he at?
What, you want to stay? No, I'd like to know that.
We'll go back and ask the question in a moment.
Nobody can put in for that job. That job is
Just on the process itself.
Nobody can put in for that job. The job's appointed.
Yes. No, actually,
Village attorney.
Jackie.
Okay, all right, that's all. Other questions? There wasn't no choice. Yeah. I'm just giving her the look.
Be careful.
No, I like to be on the contract.
She said that. She said that for that.
So we have, first we have a second.
First, second, we did that.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes. You're Sharice Vanderhall.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank
Clerk, offer the following resolution for adoption. Clerk, offer the following resolution for adoption, authorizing the appointment of and/or salary changes for certain full-time and part-time employees of the Incorporated Village of Hempstead as reviewed as follows. Grace Lawrence, 99 James A. Garner Way, Hempstead, New York, title change. Department Accounting, title, Village Treasurer, acting, grade exempt, salary, $150,000, prorated, effective January 14, 2019 to March 29, 2019.
Move. Second.
Trustee Pettis?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes. A little applause.
You don't see this?
Clerk offers the following resolutions for adoption. Authorizing the appointment of annual salary changes for certain full-time and part-time employees of the Village of Hempstead, as reviewed as follows. Ahmad Harmon, 99 James A. Garner Way, Hempstead, New York. Title change to temp trainee, Department DPW Sanitation. Title, motor equipment operator trainee. Grade 1070, new, salary $52,099 a year upon civil service approval.
Move. Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
No.
Trustee Renfro?
No.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Vote passed. Clerk offers the following resolution for adoption, authorizing the appointment of annual salary changes.
We can't hear the clerk.
Clerk offers the following resolution for adoption, authorizing the appointment of and/or salary changes for certain full-time and part-time employees of the Incorporated Village of Hempstead as reviewed as follows. Clever McDowell, 99 James A. Garner Way, Hempstead, New York. Title change, temp to trainee. Department, DPW, streets. Title, motor equipment operator trainee. Grade 107, new. Salary, $52,099 a year upon civil service approval.
Move. Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
No.
Trustee Renfro?
No.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Motion passed. Warrants and bills, resolved that upon the recommendation of Ray Graham, village controller, all meeting bills audited by the Board of Trustees on check warrant dated December 18, 2018 be approved as previously reviewed.
Move.
Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yeah.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes. Now we have the open mic, and I've got 3 people who have questions they'd like answered. Reginald Lucas. Mike Lucas.
He went over.
Good evening again. Happy New Year to you. I was a little shocked about tonight's meeting, but hey, things happen. As usual, I can go an update on the crime in the Village of Hempstead in the last 2 weeks. Not only shootings, but other incidents of crime that happened in the last 2 weeks. And when you talk about ShotSpotter, I like to know the amount of shots that was fired, not just that person was shot or whatever. What else? Well, I just found out now that they're retiring the treasurer and attorney, so hey, happy retirement.
And technology as well.
Oh, okay. Also, I'd like to know about I heard something about home breaking in the last 2 weeks. I'd like to know something about that also. NASA hub update. Can anyone give me an update on that? We should be involved with that, the NASA hub thing. So those of you that have any knowledge on that, I'd like to express it to me. And last but not least, as you hear from Charlene Thompson, she's the best that we've had in a long time. And I feel that before someone trying to steal it from us, that she should be on the contract. Thank you.
All right, I'm with that.
This board is not voting on that, but thank you for your comment.
That's right.
Would you help out? Are you?
As far as the shot spotter goes, for the last 2 weeks, there were 11 shot spotter alerts. Of those, there were 3 confirmed shootings. 2 of those were actually victims. Neither victim is cooperating. And that's it as far as that. The shot spotter goes. As far as the number of rounds, we don't list them on here. It comes up as multiple gunshots, single gunshots, or possible gunshots.
Yeah, okay, because, and one I heard it was over 11 and 9 and, you know, big numbers like that. It wasn't no just one shot, is what I'm trying to say.
There was a shooting, I believe, and there was 11 shots fired. And that person actually denied getting shot in Hempstead. He said it happened in Uniondale, which was a lie. He was basically uncooperative. He had some gang ties and didn't want to cooperate with us.
So then our gang thing is starting to arise or move up?
Well, he's a gang member. He's a known gang member. It didn't mean that it was gang-related shooting, just that he's a known gang member.
And one was a drive-by, right?
I don't know if it was drive-by or if somebody just shot at him and ran. We don't have that information.
And the other one was someone sitting in the car?
Yes.
And they got shot? Okay. And then someone got beat in the head with a stabbed in the head with a knife and something like that?
Yes.
Um,
That was also a targeted attack where he had called somebody and there was some electronic information going back and forth between the two parties.
And also, home invasion, did that happen during the last 2 weeks?
I've heard of something in Uniondale, and it was a report, I believe, of a drug house in Hempstead, but there was no official report taken for that.
Okay. Now, as far as an update on the Nassau hub, any of you guys know anything about that, or have any information on the hub of Nassau? That's around the Coliseum.
Nothing more than I've heard of it.
Anybody else up there?
We have information on it. What information would you like? Who you want to know? Who's developing? Who's the main developer?
I want to know
Art is the main developer.
Okay, I want to know where do Hempstead stand in that hub thing?
Where does Hempstead stand?
Apparently, I'm hearing that all other areas are being input, and there's no input from them.
What do you mean you heard other areas?
I'm hearing that Uniondale have input in it.
Uniondale
I'm hearing that Westbury has input in it.
It's in Uniondale.
I've talked to Sheila Bino because I've heard the same rumors, and she says that's not the case. And talking about the railroad going to Westbury and avoiding Hempstead, not necessarily a fact. It may end up that way, but at this point, it's premature.
So why would you want to go around Hempstead?
No, let the person at the mic speak.
Okay, I apologize.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, so that's the most that I can get out of you guys about the hub?
You cut me off. I was speaking.
Oh, well, go ahead.
I was trying to explain to you. You said other places. First of all, it's in Uniondale. They chose that name, the hub. I know Hempstead is known as the hub, or is the hub, but they're using that name for that development, the hub.
Okay, so as far as the planning or what they're planning, are we involved with that or not?
Involved with what? How can you be involved? I don't understand exactly what you're saying.
They're planning to do a lot of building around there. Do we have any input on that? No, is that the answer? No?
Okay, a few years ago, Reginald was good here. Reginald Benjamin was part of, you know how they had the Black Lives Matter?
Yep.
Reginald Benjamin, Reggie Pope. They had, it was some media there, a small amount of media came, I believe Newsday was there. They had Black Jobs Matter. And they were trying to get people employed over there. Reggie Pope actually had, at Kennedy Park, I think it was a 2-day program with many of the people that work at the Coliseum, actually with Hempstead residents, things of that nature. They got a job over there. So are you asking, are we involved with helping people get employed or making sure contractors? What's your question?
One thing I want to find out is if Hempstead have any input in people getting jobs, making the decisions on, what's going to be there or things of that nature. So.
I think part one of the answer is yes. We did have, as the trustee pointed out, 2 days at Kennedy Park where people signed up for jobs. Many of them did get employed there. Most of those were jobs were called in on an as-needed basis. In terms of what's going down there, in terms of buildings and so forth, it's not something that we are able to contribute to at this time.
Mr. Lucas, when they had the groundbreaking, I was there. Same thing with Belmont. I was there for that also.
Well, I think many of us were at the park. I've been to the Coliseum on many occasions to talk to them regarding it. In fact, the gentleman's name is Aldenberg, who I've talked to about jobs and other opportunities as well, and we've met. So there's an effort on our part reaching out, but if you're expecting that they're gonna ask us what to do, they're not.
Well, I would like for someone up there to be a part of something, to come back and tell us what's going on.
The town of Hempstead does the zoning. It's in the village of Uniondale. Will contribute any way possible. But it's not something to expect that they're gonna come here and say, we're pausing the project to get the input from another community.
But are you speaking more to the interconnectivity between the two, project and Hempstead?
Yeah.
In terms of
Traffic study.
traffic studies and the like, and
There you go.
one of the project, I think it was announced that Northwell Health is going to be the main tenant for at the hub. So that should be significant opportunities for the job and for housing. Unfortunately, we are unable to right now link the two together. But I think we will be trying to reach out through I'm hoping through the CDA. She's been making significant progress with opportunity zones and things of that nature. But we could benefit from what we call the draft from what's occurring at the Coliseum and around the Coliseum for both not only employment but also for housing options and for other economic generators that will come off of that. And that's where we should go. And you also have Long Island City that's going to have 10,000 jobs from Amazon over the next 10 years, 15,000 jobs from Amazon over the next 10 years. You know, hopefully there'll be interconnectivity. We got the railroad, we got the bus that can get to and fro easily to Hempstead Sport, Long Island City. There's a lot of benefit to the village of Hempstead that we could bring to the village of Hempstead. Hopefully we could do a little bit better job, and I'm not pointing a finger, but being more welcoming to the fact that we have these opportunities. Because if you look, everything is happening around us, and we're the town of no, right? But meanwhile, people have to stop driving through Hempstead and stop, right? Everybody drives through to go to Garden City. They drive through to Rockville Center. They drive through to go to this hub, right? But nobody wants to stop. And every time we try to bring something so that give them people places to stop and ourselves something to generate economic activity in the village of Hempstead, we tend to want to stop it. So we have to start saying yes so that we can participate. This has been one of the longest economic expansions on record, and everything has passed by the village of Hempstead because the only thing we do is say no.
Well, the elephant in the room is the question of pilots. Obviously, people want to come in and build, so they come in and build. Well, you ran on the platform of stopping pilots, and
I'm not
that's,
campaigning, I'm asking a question.
it sounded like a campaign to me. And the fact of the matter is, we move forward, people in the village have to pay attention, and they'll have an opportunity to march to vote accordingly. And I can count it, 3 outnumbers 2, and we have to go that way, so this is the issue at hand. And one of the things I think is significant that took place at the CDA meeting today is we've targeted 3 main buildings on Main Street in the real downtown to see if we can't get some encouragement there as well, along with the other types of developments that are taking place at the CDA. So I thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Renee Holmes.
Hello, happy New Year, y'all.
You too.
And to everyone else. My comment in question is concerning the bond issue that you voted. It was a weighted vote, and it was voted. I know it was voted down. My question is, can't you do a special meeting so that we can at least look at this some more? And I want to tell you why I'm asking this. My background is that I've been an environmental attorney for 40 years. And so I shouldn't admit that because that must mean I'm older than 50. But anyway, seriously, the reason is if it's going to become regulated, this contaminant, you're going to have to do it anyway unless you just want to put up signs.
Listen, I don't have a problem with it,
No,
but it has to be.
no, I'm just saying, what I would like to suggest is that you have a special, is it called special session? A special meeting among yourselves, simply to allow, to discuss it some more, determine if you can at least tentatively agree to the bond issue, simply because it is going to become a regulated contaminant of concern. And once it's regulated, why would we as a village want to throw money away that we could get for free? And the only reason that the states usually give money, I was an EPA attorney, so I kind of know how they get the grant money. The grants really are coming part from the federal government as well as the state, is that they know it's going to be a very costly event for municipalities, which is why they have these grants available for lots of different things. So my suggestion is that we go back, that y'all go back and have maybe a special session to discuss this, because I really do think it's not something that's going to go away. And I do understand that everything else seems to go up and up in cost, but if we can eliminate some of the cost on the village taxpayers by getting the grant, why not improve our chances of getting the grant by at least agreeing to consider the bond? Simply for, this is not a political statement, this is simply so that we can get more money for free than put it all out of our own pocket and still have to go and have an increase in water supply.
I agree
That's
with
my
you.
own comment.
My thing is that it's always a bond. It has to be done a week before we lose it. With every time we get up here. We got 1 week, we gotta vote on it right away. Why can't we know about this a month? And we know what we have to do. It's always 1 week. We have to do it now before we can get this grant, or we can get this. It's always 1 week. That's not with just the water. That's with everything in this building.
Well, my comment on that is, y'all should have, like, a lot of companies that, or municipalities, have an individual or a group that their responsibility is to review all the legislation from the county or the state or the federal government to see when these deadlines are arising, so that they have ample time to do it. Because you're right, this deadline didn't just happen. It was there. So my comment is only that y'all should maybe consider that it should be part of somebody's job function to actually look at the legislation, look at what the grants are for various different entities within the state and federal. But my concern tonight is really about this. I really do think y'all need a special session on this. That's.
Okay, thank you. If we get a response from the water department regarding the issue that Trustee Pettis just brought up.
Yes, Ralph Frail, Assistant Supervisor, Water Plant. Mr. Holzmacher and Ray Collane have worked diligently on this for the last month, I want to say. This application came out only 2 to 3 months ago. I don't know a little history on what you may or may not know. Governor Cuomo said he's going to give us $2 billion, Long Island, okay? This impacts everybody in Long Island, not just the village of Hempstead. That's my little problem that I got to worry about. This 1,4-dioxane is going to be taken out of the water, or they will tell you, turn the water off. Simple as that. We can't do that. We have to maintain fire protection. As far as you're worrying about the time frame, these guys did a phenomenal job of putting this together. We're asking, they're not going to give it to us if we don't put this application in. You're going to have to take this out of the water, period, amen. It's going to increase our treatment process that we have now. We maybe do 3 to 4 treatment processes before we send the water out that comes out of the ground. This is going to add 4 to 5 additional treatment processes to the water. Now, 1,4-dioxane, part per billion that was thrown around, the EPA, the FDA, right? Food and Drug Administration, has been watching this since 1979. It's in cosmetics, it's in laundry detergents, it's in cleaning fluids, it's in everything. As he mentioned, because now all of a sudden they can test with computers that are so much better, it could be a known carcinogen. It's not a known carcinogen, it could be, 1 in a million chance. But do you want to tell that 1 in a million person that lives in the village of Hempstead, you got it, sorry, we didn't want to fund the money to get it done. Simple as that. I've been preaching to this board a year or 2 about the Freon, another contaminant. It's always about the money. I understand that. But the issue is the public safety, as far as the Board of Health is going to tell you, turn the water off. You cannot send that water out there unless you put a warning on it.
Ralph, I agree, we have to get this done. My thing is, the residents have to pick up the tab when their water rates go up 10%. We need to just let the community know what we're doing, that's all. That's
As soon as I know.
And
I don't know how else to explain it.
I don't disagree, we do need to save money. But it's a lot of money being spent, millions of dollars, and why can't the resident know that we're spending millions of dollars of their money? That's
Trust
all.
I think you're missing the whole point.
No, I'm not
We're not
missing it.
spending any money right now. We're asking for relief. They want to give us the money. You're not committing yourself to spending any money right now. You're just producing less. Here's our application. I need money, so I go to a bank. I got to fill an application out. Same thing. Same exact thing. If we don't do this, I'm telling you, as far as what I know in the 25 some odd years I'm here, the Board of Health's going to tell you, do not send that water out. It has a contaminant in it. You did not take it out of the water.
I was asked by any homes that made a request indirectly, that you've been dramatic about it. Is there anybody on the board willing to reconsider items 4 and 5?
And 6 and 7.
I would,
They just said yes.
but
All right, then let's
I don't know if the meeting is closed, right?
we have all the trustees on the board to reconsider, vote for, and if it does pass, then bring item 5 before the public.
4, 5, 6, and
So we are now going to go back, and we're going to have to undo it, and then
Undo it.
do it again. I'll put it in your hands.
It's 4 through 7.
4 through 7. Items 4 and 7 are going to be reviewed. We're going to take it off and re-vote it. Because of that, and this is an unusual situation, the deadline is upon us, and the necessity for it is now clear. I would ask if anybody in the public that would like to come to the mic, give us the name and address if there's a question or comment. Perhaps at this point, we're talking comments, if anybody's so inclined. Okay, then, Madam Clerk, would you make this happen?
We wait.
Just call it again, just read it again.
Just read the motion down.
Item number 4, bond construction of improvements to the water plant at Laurel Avenue, estimated maximum cost thereof is $6,263,000. Resolved that upon the recommendation of Raymond Cohen, village controller, that the board of trustees hereby approves the bond resolution of the village of Hempstead, New York, authorizing construction of improvements to the water plant located at Laurel Avenue, stating the estimated maximum cost thereof $6,263,000, appropriating said amount for such purpose and authorizing the issuance of bonds in the principal amount of $6,262,000 to finance said appropriation.
This is, yes, and then this item.
Okay, this item now is gonna be no longer number 4, it's gonna be considered to be addendum number 11.
Yes, after the bills.
After
Yes,
bills,
yes.
I need a motion.
Second. I have a question.
Yes.
Does anybody know how much money we put aside for this water? This water improvement?
No.
This wasn't budgeted for.
It's not budgeted for.
For the past year, how much, bonds do we put up for the water improvement?
Currently, we're still in the process. We did not go to bond yet.
I think we approved upwards of 2.5, if not more, for the air stripper on Laurel.
We did indeed.
Of which we received back, we got awarded a grant for,
About 1.1.
so the cost was reduced, essentially reduced by 1.1 million in grant funds. And very similar to what we did here, we approved the bond resolution, which gave us the opportunity to apply for the grant. And we were successful in receiving the grant funds to offset the cost, some of the cost of that air stripper. which was an issue that we were dealing with, kind of in an emergency situation because of the tree on.
So what's the percentage on the bond?
It wasn't floated yet.
What?
It's not floated yet, so we don't know what the rate is, what from my understanding and speaking to the treasurer this morning, that we were approved for receiving an interest rate subsidy from New York State, is that correct?
Yes, I believe, Laurel Avenue scored very high, so we're in the process, we didn't get back the final decision yet, but we're expected to get, I believe we're gonna get like a 1/3 discount on the rate.
So the rate, so we're gonna get a subsidy back from New York State, which we applied for, it's gonna give us a subsidy to the actual bond rate that we float. And we plan on doing the same thing for the bonds when we float these bonds. You know, Hempstead checks a lot of boxes, so to speak, when it comes to applying for grant and receiving grant funds. So we expect to get similar scoring on this particular bond, which would help subsidize the interest rate. In other words, lower the interest rate to the taxpayers on the water.
Thank you.
So
The
you're saying we did our due diligence, that's what you're saying?
the key thing is that we have to approve it tonight, make these options possible.
I have questions, it's not about whether I just need to know some certain things.
Continue.
I just need to know certain things because it is a lot of money and I want to know how much money have we allocated, put aside, or what's going on, the bonds, I just want to know. It has nothing to do with my vote, but I need to know because people do pay. And it's every time you turn around, I remember a few years ago, there was a problem with the iron in the water. There's a big presentation made like everything was good with the water and we did the right thing. And then it seems like every time you turn around, there's something else with the water.
Right.
So I'm just trying to let people know that we're just not voting on something and agreeing that every time somebody says, oh, it's some chemical in the water, that we just gonna say, yeah, we're gonna do a bond, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, that we not just playing with people's money. I agree. You know, because after this so-called chemical, then who's to say 5 months from now they won't come up with another chemical? Okay? And I must be very frank. I want people to know that it's just not, we just can't have advice from an expert and it's a way, because it's still the bottom line is people making money on this. Okay, vendors and other people. So I want people to know it's not a free check that's being written in Hempstead because we have water problems. So the whole United States has water problems. Okay, so I want to make sure we not being taken advantage of.
But we do have a moral obligation to provide safe water to our residents.
I understand that. I understand that, but people can also take advantage of that to benefit themselves. We're dealing with what one person says about how much something should cost. There's no comparison. You know, one person may say it may cost this much to do it. Another person, I think we're going to offer only what one person is saying. So I want to make it clear that, you know, the bank is not just open for this water issue. That's some concern. I'm concerned about it.
And my thing is, all the money we dumped in this water system, and we still number 2 in the worst with the water. I just don't understand it. I can't figure that out. All the money we keep dumping and dumping and dumping, and we the second worst with water issues. Anyway, we need this. Let's go.
Yeah, because I can't speak out here. My grandmother taught me just a little bit better. But I gotta tell you something, there are some things that we need to talk about.
A lot of things.
Yeah, we need to talk about. Because if it was me, personally, I would just say, let it go. But it's not just me. We are concerned about all the residents here in Hempstead. But there are certain things that has to be done, and I mean, it's not just, if it was just Hempstead, then I would say, well, you know, perhaps that's true.
Nobody's saying it has not to be done. That's not the point.
It's not.
Nobody's saying
Mr.
that has to be
Johnson,
done.
I did not say one word when you were speaking, not one. I allowed you to speak and I listened. And I think you made sense for what you were talking about. So all I ask you to do, and anybody up here, is to give me the same respect that I'm going to give you in spite of whether I disagree with you or not. In spite of whether I disagree with you or not, I'm going to respect you. So now I have really nothing else to add to that tonight, but I think that we will revisit this subject again sometime very soon? Because I understand what you were saying. I do. But I don't think this time this is the case. If it was just Hempstead, like I said before, then I would say yes, of course.
That's not what I was saying. I don't think you understood what I was saying.
Yeah, that's
And
probably
I'm not actually, I'm concerned with the village of Hempstead. That's what I'm concerned with. I understand this water problem, but I'm not gonna allow us to possibly be taken advantage. I'm just trying to ensure that the money is being spent correctly and we're not overpaying for whatever service that we get. That's my point. I had a right to say that. That has nothing to do with, I didn't say it didn't need to be done, but I had the right to bring that up. That's one of my concerns. And I said my concern.
Right, I'm not debating you. Of course you have the right to say what you have to say, and I never said that you were wrong.
Okay.
I never said that.
All right.
All right, let's move to vote.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Great.
Addendum item number 12. Secret improvements at Laurel Avenue Water Plant. Resolved that upon the recommendation of Randy Blaine, village controller, that the board of trustees hereby authorizes the mayor to take all actions reasonable and necessary to file the written declaration pursuant to State Environmental Quality Review Act, (SEQA), for the addition of advanced oxidation process treatment center to the water treatment plant, WTP, and related improvements at the Laurel Avenue plant. Whereas the village of Hempstead has proposed WTP upgrades, excuse me, related improvements and have reviewed such actions in accordance with SEQA. Now therefore be it resolved that the appropriate village of Hempstead hereby determines that the proposed water treatment plant upgrades and related improvements is unlisted action in accordance with 6 NYC RR section 617, and be it further resolved that the appropriate village of Hempstead hereby determines that the above described proposed unlisted actions will not have a significant adverse effect on the environment for the reasons set forth in the attached notice of determination of non-significance and environmental assessment form, and be it further resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized to take all actions reasonable and necessary to file a negative declaration and discharge the appropriate village of Hempstead responsibility as lead agency for these actions.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Motion passed. Addendum item number 13. Resolved that upon the recommendation of Raymond Colley, village controller, that the board of trustees hereby approves the bond resolution of the village of Hempstead, New York, authorizing the construction of improvements to the water plant located at Clinton Street, stating the estimated maximum cost thereof is $5,840,000, appropriating said amount for such purpose, and authorizing the issuance of bonds in the principal amount of $5,840,000 to finance said appropriation.
Is that a bond?
Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Motion passed. Addendum item number 14. Resolved that upon the recommendation of Raymond Colley, village controller, that the board of trustees hereby authorizes the mayor to take all actions reasonable and necessary to file a negative declaration pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, (SEQA), for the addition of an advanced oxidation process treatment system to the water treatment plant, WTP, and related improvements at Clinton Street plant. Whereas the village of Hempstead has proposed WTP upgrades and related improvements and has reviewed such actions in accordance with SEQA. Now therefore be it resolved that the incorporated village of Hempstead hereby determines that the proposed water treatment plant upgrades and related improvements is unlisted action in accordance with 6 NYC RR 617, and be it further resolved that the incorporated village of Hempstead hereby determines that the above described proposed unlisted actions will not have a significant adverse effect on the environment for the reasons set forth in the attached notice of determination of non-significance and environmental assessment form, and be it further resolved that the mayor is authorized to take all actions reasonable and necessary to file a negative declaration and discharge the incorporated village of Hempstead responsibility as lead agency for these actions.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Motion passed.
We have two more people to call up the mic. I just want to pause for a second to let you know that the tax grievance seminars will be available. It's an issue, of course, of great importance today, lots of attention. One of those meetings will be tomorrow in the Hempstead Public Library at 6 p.m. Another will be Monday, United Methodist Church at 1 p.m. And then 2 days later, Kennedy Park at noon. All right, James Garner.
That's the man talking about account three.
First of all, let me say Happy New Year to all of you.
Happy New Year.
The reason I'm here is to thank each and every one of you, Mayor Ryan, Trustee Daniels, Trustee Renfro, Trustee Pettis, and Trustee Johnson. Thank you for the vote of confidence that you have placed in this young lady right here as your village attorney. Well, let me say I take pride in this young lady here. I've been knowing her 95% of her life.
That's about 25 years.
Memorial Church. I'll never forget, and her mother and her father came to me when she was looking for a law school. They asked me to help see if we can get her into the law school. I went to see Hopps University. We went over there. And the dean said you can sit into one of the classes and see how you would like this law school. So it feels good for you to know that you got 5 votes on that board to place the confidence that you have placed in her. So I just want to say thank each and every one of you for placing the confidence in this young lady right here.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Michael Abrahams.
Stop giving away the people's money. Stop it. You have to stop it. If you don't know, your counsel, Oldsmacher, am I saying it right? You can't trust him. You cannot trust him. You can't trust him. Why would you think you can trust him? You cannot trust him. Let me tell you why you cannot trust him. He's a businessman. And only a stupid businessman would do business knowingly that he's going to lose. It's not going to benefit him. It's going to cost him. If I came in here and told you, like he did, and then you had your technician in the back tell you, this came out 3 months ago when Dr. Spiritus was in CDA and I was working under him as a deputy commissioner, my backside would have been on fire the minute I got that paperwork, because it would have to be prepared 30 days later so you guys could have at least 30 days to reciprocate back to us and have counsel, guidance. You can't be all-knowing, and you shouldn't be. You're not. That's why you have counsel. Deborah DeSalvo, she was not good counsel for you. Look at the amount of money you paid out in lawsuits that should have been settled, and you'll understand where I'm coming from. That guy, he's in business. I take my hat off to him as a businessman. But I don't take my hat off to him coming in here hustling you under the gun of a deadline that should have been discussed at least 60 days earlier. Minimum, number one. Number two, when you bond, stop using the word bonding. It's a tax. At the end of the day, gentlemen, it results in a tax. So this guy over here saying he's concerned about the fiscal situation, and this gentleman over here saying he wants to be doing what is right by the welfare of the community, very noble. I applaud you both. But again, you gotta have good counsel. Otherwise, you're gonna tax yourselves into oblivion. The state comptroller already told us, we only got that much room. You keep bonding, and you keep going to fees, another name for a tax, dress it up, dance it out as a monkey, still a duck, it's quacking. I asked for an additional minute, please. You cannot bond, guys. You gotta stop bonding.
We're gonna have to ask you to do the same thing that all the other residents did. Entertain the 3-minute limit, please. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Benjamin.
you're asleep at the wheel.
Mr. Benjamin, you have 3 minutes. Everybody else.
You don't even know my name. You're asleep at the wheel, sir. Thank you.
I apologize. Hey, Francis.
You've known me since I was 13 years
You're
old.
right. My fault.
Yeah, I'm right.
Might I respond? Some of the accusations.
No, sir, you cannot respond.
Okay.
This is village time. Speak to them. Don't speak to me.
Michael Abrams.
You can't respond to me.
Michael
There's no
Abrams,
accusation.
that's not your call.
Look, he was addressing me. He was addressing me.
All right, here he is now addressing us.
All right.
If I might,
Speak to him.
I have had 4 children, and I've had to discipline them for a number of things over the course of my parenthood, and one of them is flapping their tongue. Make very personal accusations,
Are you speaking to
completely
him or are you speaking to me?
unfounded. I want to make sure you can hear,
Are you speaking
because
to
your
me?
mouth
Are you
seems to
speaking-
work better than your
Because if
ears.
you're addressing me, I have a right to respond to you.
Let it be now at this point. We understand what you're saying. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Did you have a heat?
They won't let me up. They closed it.
Did you
don't have to slip.
Did your insurance slip in, sir?
Yes, he did, along with mine. We did it together. I brung his up along with mine.
Say it again?
I brung his slip up along with my slip, is what I'm saying.
Maybe they were stuck together.
Go ahead, speak. I can't find it. Go ahead, sir. You're a reverend? I believe you.
The truth is, I was elevated to help. First of all, Chief, God bless you, Chief, tonight. I don't know if give you congratulations or condolences, but I'm gonna go with congratulations for now. Trustees, Deputy Mayor, and Mayor. To respond to something that Reggie asked, I did some personal pushing and was able to get some people over at the Roosevelt field working in carpentry. So we have 3 people over there now. They tell me when the weather breaks, they'll be adding people to that. So we are pushing in terms of the hub. So there's some things going on there. In terms of Mineola, we have several, Mineola, we have up to 27 people working right now. We have at the charter school, we got several people working there and been working long-term, just to knock that notion about 3 months. The charter school. They've been working since it started, and you all know that it's been over a year. None of them was fired or terminated or anything, and they're doing very well, and some of them have gotten raised. So I just wanted to say that, to put that out there about that notion about temporary and working for 3 months and being fired and all that nonsense. I am concerned about 3 particular sites, and I need your help, Trustee Johnson, on one. The Mazda dealership there, they still haven't approved it to move forward, but they have a component to that. I hope to be able to work with you in terms of the apprenticeship program, putting people, training to become technicians. And I know that Laura, the supervisor, is still holding that up, and that's stopping people from opportunity to go to work. What can we do to expedite that? It's been approved. She said that she agreed with it, but the papers are not being signed. Meanwhile, we got a bunch of guys that are waiting for opportunity to go to work. I've already talked to the contractor. I already talked to Mazda dealership. They said they're going to do it. I just asked you guys to push to make sure that they keep their word, and I will be pushing from my angle. The other thing that I'm very, very concerned about is the Delft Bus Development Project. I noticed that we had a very good meeting, I would say that much, in terms of the commitment to the local community. But my concern remains, was, and still is, we don't have both things in place. One, the contracting center and the job and small business referral center. And it seems like there's some wavering going on in terms of that commitment for the 25%.
I would ask that whatever watchdog committee you guys have intended, you make sure they're in place so that these people get an opportunity to go to work. I have hundreds of people that needed to go to work, and they continue to come in my office. I'm not getting any help, and I'm not begging for any help, but I'm just saying, let's not be a hindrance and not let these things take place. Also, Mayor, I'm gonna be meeting with Racanelli, within the next few days concerning that. I wish you would put a buzz in the ear, make sure you give local community opportunity. Also in regards to, I know my time is up, in regards to the, Martin Luther King Drive.
You are correct, sir.
You are correct.
Thank you.
You are correct, sir. I'm finished.
Thank you. I will entertain it. Thank you, sir.
Reggie Lucas? Oh, you went already.
We have a motion to adjourn, second, please.
Move.
Trustee Johnson? Trustee Pettis? Trustee Mayor
Mr. Benjamin,
Yes, sir.
you know it's definitely nothing but protocol, not personal.
Mr. Johnson?